1, 2, 3, I picked them up without even thinking about it. The moment I reached out for the next broken piece, I finally noticed it. I jumped back in confusion, feeling like I touched something I wasn't supposed to. A few fragments slipped from my hands, fluttering and dancing in the air like scraps of paper. No, that's not it. Those really are scraps of paper. Tiny characters were squeezed onto each scrap. You could tell at a glance that it was a newspaper. I should have recognized the newspaper scraps from what they were, but for some reason I'd mistaken them for something else. To put it precisely, I was convinced they were pieces of the broken cups, because up until now, there really have been cups in my hand. And yet, just like magic, they'd suddenly transformed into newspaper. Still reeling from the shock, I almost forgot to breathe altogether. You okay now? The man standing beside me spoke. Tsurugi, the man of the dream. Why was he here? The answer's obvious. I guess my consciousness had once again been pulled into the dream world. Damn, what a pain. Why did you do that? Never mind, it's pointless to ask. Probably had another fit, that's all. Jeez. With those words, Tsurugi knelt down and began collecting up the newspaper scraps. Someone else decided to silently help him. It was Uni. Looking across the room, I could see Lynn there too. She was chewing on something with her chin planted on a table. Was it gum? She seemed pretty listless and had an apathetic look on her face. I was in the mountain cabin. Everything in the room was almost identical to the dream I'd seen earlier. If I had to name a single difference, it's undoubtedly be the scraps of paper that was scattered all over the floor. This dream again. Yomogi turned around, still kneeling on the floor and grumbling as he picked up the scraps. Huh? No, nothing, don't worry. It would be meaningless to say anything to the characters in a dream. Waving my hands in a gesture of please keep it up. I headed over to the cabin window. There was a blizzard outside. I could tell due to the countless snowflakes striking the glass and the gloomy echoes that filled the room. I gazed into the darkness of the storm, but besides the swirling white, there was nothing out there to be seen. I returned to my eyes to the surface of the glass. Though I'd never expected this, I couldn't help but despair whenever I saw my reflection. Just as I'd feared, the face of that unknown woman still reflected in the surface of the glass. Damn it, who is this woman anyway? Those words left my mouth unconsciously. It's you, another self whispered to me. I know that already, but just to be sure I had to confirm with my own eyes. I tried smiling, unpursing my lips, bringing a hand to my cheek, but no matter what I did, the woman reflected in the glass matched my movements perfectly. There was bilateral symmetry and no time difference. She reproduced everything I did without discrepancy, exactly the same way. I turned away from the window. Surprise attack! She immediately turned around as well, staring at me with eyes full of suspicion. Still standing there by the window, I looked down by my body. A ribbon on my chest, a light pink skirt, and high lace-up boots. Is there a ribbon? I can't tell. There's no ribbon, is there? Unless of course they're calling a ribbon this thing that's just hanging there. Doesn't look like a ribbon. I always think ribbon's like a bow. So, I opened my hands and placed them together. Our reaction speed was no different than in reality. I swung my arms. Did a stretch, I jumped, I even did a high knee dash. And I tried it again without using my hands, my movements became pretty awkward. Okay, let's try some push-ups. 1, 2, 3. Before I reached double digits, my head collapsed to the wooden floor in exhaustion. I had an overwhelming lack of physical strength. The physical endurance of this body was far different from what I'd expected. A divergence between mental and physical self. Though the body was still made of normal human flesh, it felt like it was composed of something akin to jelly. I got up unsteadily and wiped the dust from my clothes. Thankfully, there was no hindrance to everyday movement. The real problem was potential physical output and stamina. No, it wasn't just that. In the long run, there were two differences I was unlikely to adapt easily. First was the mammary organs growing on my chest. They weren't all that big, but they didn't change the fact that they were definitely depressingly there. The idea that something that shouldn't be there actually was, just as though it was natural, made me feel uncomfortable. As far as I'm concerned, they were undesired and nothing but an obstacle. Moreover, there were two of them. Don't saddle me with these things was one of the complaints I wanted to make. On top of that, I really wanted to do something about this feeling of oppression on my chest. I reached an arm onto my clothes and searched along my back and did the hook there. Undid the hook. Oh, it became a lot easier to breathe. Secondly, my lower half felt cold. It was drafty in the skirt made me feel uneasy. Do the creatures known as women really walk and wearing something that renders them defenseless? It's somehow hard to believe. I tried pushing the skirt up between my thighs. It didn't fit there very well. I tried pulling it around my rears just as I feared. It didn't help. And something hit me. Something that shouldn't be there actually was. I was well aware of that terrible situation. The watch? Things to watch. Moreover, it was now the case that something that should have been there now isn't. Oh yeah, I forgot the most important thing. Feeling a little dismayed, I tried searching around for it. No way, are you serious? It wasn't there. The thing that should have been there wasn't. My most precious treasure had been snatched away. I was driven to destruction over the loss of the important symbol. It's not there, it's not there, it's not there! Where did it go? I groped around my lower body in desperation, searching for what I'd lost. Searching for my irreplaceable pal. The watch. Confusion and bewilderment can't come across to describing the way I felt. This is a state of emergency, an emergency equal to the destruction of the world. But no matter where and how much I searched, I couldn't find it. Obviously, it couldn't do something like crawl from under the bed and say good evening. This is the body of a stranger, a woman's body. Furthermore, it's happening in a dream. I know that, but I couldn't help muttering it. It's not there. With both hands still between my legs, I held up to the heavens. Ah! Why isn't it there? What? I felt a pair of eyes bore into me as I walked around. 3 figures stood in front of the table. Their mouths hung wide open. The cigarette dropped from Yorogi's lips. Yuni's glasses were slipping down. Around Lin's mouth were the remnants of a popped-up bubblegum bubble. I looked down. Something a woman shouldn't expose in public was plain in sight. 2 hands were spread across an unfortunate place. Slowly adjusted the position of my hands and stood up, dusting off my skirt as I did. No, really, it's not that. See? It was itchy, you know, sort of. Itchy? Look, there's a snow fairy outside the window. Pointed behind them. They altered the bait and turned around. No! I immediately ran, seeking refuge in the basement. But I can't help but be amazed that the oldest trick in the book actually worked. From the rectangular opening above the ladder, I could hear the sound of whispering voices. I could just make out what they were saying. We'd better tie her to the bed or something. As it is, who knows what she'll do? Oh, that's going too far. After all, she's a woman, you know. Why don't we just leave her alone? You can't do any real harm. While listening attentively, I started to think. By the way, I remember that the first time Cocoro appeared in her body in the cabin, Yuni said, "Oh, you remember me," but yet nothing happened with Satoru. All Yuni did was say, "You forgot," and stuff like that. But there was never a point where we said we didn't recognize you. Like, yeah, we didn't, but we never actually said it, so what made him say that? This is so stupid, what the hell am I doing? This is a dream, right? It's not real. So why did I get embarrassed and hide down here? While it was true that I'd lost my beloved symbol, it was nothing to mourn over. I decided to accept the phenomenon in a manly fashion. But then, what if the world was a dream? Bruce's fear in the cabin, the possibility that both could be real is unimaginable, right? That's not possible. I shook my head and quickly tossed the idea aside. After climbing the ladder, I stealthily peeked up at the first floor. You're right. From now on, let's just act like nothing ever happened. Anyway, let's try not to provoke her, okay? Ugh. Yuni was the first one to notice me after I poked my head out. With the tip of one finger, Yuni prodded Yorogi, who then turned to face me. Hey, where did you run off to? You vanished all of a sudden, we were looking for you. The tone of voice was so forced. It's a bit hard to hide in the place. The basement storeroom comprised the only other floor. Don't just hide down there, come on up. We're all waiting for you, you know. Yorogi spread his arms wide, trying to look welcoming. Yuni was looking away, his lips pursed in a sour expression. Lin just blew another bubble with her gum as she fiddled with a piece of firewood. So, Lin had gum and she never told us. It sure didn't look like either of them had been waiting. Well, whatever. I climbed back up and sat down on one of the log chairs beside the table. Uniform. The cold atmosphere permeated the room. Everyone was trying to stay calm and composed. So was I. We were playing dumb, pretending that nothing had happened just now. The newly gathered newspaper scraps were piled up on the table. From the looks of things, it had been torn up pretty haphazardly and definitely by hand. There was no irregularities in the size of scraps, and the soft fibre of the paper were exposed along the edges. So what does it mean? Were they trying to make confetti out of it? Yuni, there's some tape down below, right? Would you mind bringing it up? Sure, got it. Yuni disappeared down the ladder. Now then, any chance you could help out too? Yorogi sat in front of me as he spoke. With what? The jigsaw puzzle. Jigsaw puzzle? We're going to put this newspaper back together. Why? I want to know why you destroyed it. I destroyed it? Yeah. Since you're asking me, again, I guess you don't remember? Yeah, no need to answer that. No use in us saying the same things over and over again. At any rate, right after you saw what was written in that article, you lost your mind. You started yelling and raging around, and then you ripped the whole thing in shreds. And that's how this nice little mountain of paper was born. Of course, I won't tell you, just accept what I'm saying. Doesn't matter even if you don't. But I'm worried. I get the impression that something very important is written down. Something big enough to drive your mind to breaking point. How about it? Won't you lend us a hand? There was no reason to refuse. Besides, like Yumergi, I wanted to know why the newspaper was torn up. No choice then. Where do you want me to start? As Yumergi nodded with a small smile, he spread out the newspaper, the mountain of paper. Alright. The dancing Moogle. That's what it looks like to me. This looks like a dancing Moogle. A thing on its head and everything. I don't know why those scenes happen. Maybe it's because it's advancing time. This here goes here, or... Wrong, that should obviously go here. The writing is backwards now. I see. Yumogi, that's wrong too. The page numbers are clearly marked right here. Are you blind? It's true. Hey you, the girl! What have you been doing this whole time? Me? I said girl, there aren't any other girls here besides you and me. Hey, don't you dare ignore me. I asked you what you're doing. What, just putting the newspaper back together. Why are you doing that? To read the article, of course. So, what about the piece you're holding now? It says Poco Poco-chan here. That's a comic strip. What good would putting that back together have? Huh. Really, you guys have zero talent at solving puzzles, don't you? What about you, Lin? Seeing as you haven't lifted a finger all this time. I'm fine, I'm the supervisor. What the heck? You have a complaint? No, of course not. The supervisor soon joined uni, and our work advanced quickly. Or so I thought, but... Hey, Fuyukawa-san, can you hand me that piece? At the unexpected utterance, my hands froze. Fuyukawa? I slowly raised my face, almost as if I was pulling it up. Fuyukawa-san, that one, the piece over there, under your hand. Yumergi was looking straight at me. Just to be sure, I turned around to look. There was no one behind me. That means that Yumergi was calling me Fuyukawa. By Fuyukawa, you mean Fuyukawa Cocoro, right? I turned around and asked. The scrap of paper fell from Yumergi's hand. Uni and Lin both stopped what they were doing simultaneously. Only the flame of the lantern continued its flickering, and the Moogle where... It's a Moogle! Come on, go back to the lantern and look. It's a Moogle! It's a Moogle! There's nothing else you can see it as. Picking up the piece Yumergi had asked for, and joining it with a nearly completed page, I mused aloud. Along. I see, Fuyukawa Cocoro. That's the owners of my body's name. Yumergi answered with a firm nod. At that moment I finally understood what had happened to my body. Yumergi, Saiji, Mayuzumi, Lin, Kasuda, Uni, and Fuyukawa Cocoro all were here. Furthermore, we're inside a shelter cabin engulfed by a blizzard. I'm getting fed up with the slow speed of my thoughts. DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. Uni slowly opened his mouth. I kept my own shut as I carefully listened to his speech. Yeah, boy. The main point of this is, Yumergi, Uni, and Lin, and Fuyukawa Cocoro, these four people had all boarded a small passenger plane flying towards Wakanai. But on the way, the plane crashed due to some sort of problem. They were there, thrown deep into the recesses of snowy Mount Akakura. The time of the crash was around 7 hours ago, a little past 4 p.m. The date was January 11th, of course. They miraculously survived uninjured, and had wandered around in the snowstorm for a while before arriving in this mountain cabin. Full name, Mount Akakura Emergency Shelter Cabin. They survived through the twin calamities of the crash and the blizzard and managed to reach the shelter cabin where they could finally rest. When the storm settles, the rescue team's helicopters will surely arrive, or so they believe. However, an unexpected situation occurred, and the origin of the situation was none other than me, Yukidoh Satoru's personality and Fuyukawa Cocoro's existence. Uni spoke. Maybe from the shock of the crash, he suddenly developed DID. After being dealt a painful emotion blow, Kokoro gave birth to another personality within herself and escaped from the pain. Lin answered him. Impossible, I've never heard of a split personality occurring so suddenly. That one is just lying. First of all, she spoke Yukidoh Satoru's name, a name that only I should know. I held myself back and endured the impulse to object, because now simply wasn't the time to slash out. At any rate, figuring out this mysterious phenomenon is high priority. Let's continue with the talk. Uni reasons that the Yukidoh Satoru personality is the fictitious existence produced by Fuyukawa Cocoro's conscience. It's hard to take it all seriously. Yumogi just shook his head. Naturally, I didn't support the theory either, because I had memories of Sphere. But what if those are fake? I couldn't answer the dissenting voice inside me. There was no proof either for or against that theory. In any case, I have no memory. None that isn't related to Sphere or the shelter cabin anywhere. Is Yukidoh Satoru's personality a fictitious existence produced by Fuyukawa Cocoro's conscience after all? Consciousness, after all. No, there's no way something so ridiculous could be true. Logic is useless in this case. I am me. I am Yukidoh Satoru. My definite consciousness can't be the product of someone's imagination. Sudden DID? Absolutely absurd. Childhood trauma is the main cause of dissociative identity disorder. Personality disorder. PD. I'm not sure if that's how it's meant to be. DPD. I think it's actually meant to be... Yeah, it's dissociative identity, not personality. Though I guess that's another version. New personalities aren't suddenly shaken into existence due to a plane crash or two. Alright, DID is the type, but the personality disorder one is when you make a new personality, I'm guessing. That's right, Uni's theory had to be wrong. There has to be some other way to explain this. The discussion over... Uni put his lips near my ear and whispered to me, "It's alright, Satoru. Satoru will go back to normal for sure." Those words that he kept quietly said to me. I guess Yumogi and Lin didn't catch the whisper, as they both wore expressions of unmasked doubt. As for myself, I too felt the same. I didn't get the true meaning of Uni's words at all. Satoru will return to normal. We finished restoring the newspaper during Uni's speech. Was it because of the combined efforts of 4 people? We'd made far more progress than I thought. We did it! With this, it's completed. Yumogi folded up the patchwork newspaper like it had been before. Then he laid it flat on the table for our eyes. 4 of us crowded around. My eyes were fixed on the headline. Yeah, I already know this. Survivor consider Uni. The instant I finished reading that, a chill ran down my spine. From the moment the name Fuyukawa left Yumogi's mouth, I'd somehow felt it. But after seeing this page, the premonition had turned into a conviction. I know of the incident, of course, I remember it very clearly. A plane crash on scale hadn't happened for decades in this country. If any Japanese person had taken a glance at the paper of the TV news around that time, they'd remember this horrible incident. However, that just wasn't the case with me. Regarding this accident, I alone was a unique position among the majority of the Japanese population. Meizumi Lin, the woman who was once my girlfriend, had boarded the plane. I remember it clearly. Lin lost her life in that incident, exactly 1 year ago. But right now, before my eyes. Lin. On seeing the article, Lin had frozen stiff, staring off into a daze. Her voice growing pale, she stood rooted to the spot as though close to death. Yumogi and Uni too could do nothing but blink and hold their breath. They were reduced to ice sculptures. Get a grip, no matter what, just get a grip. Psyching myself out the best I could, I looked around. First of all, I had to make sure that this really was the shelter capital of Mount Akikura. Door into my field of vision. I thought of saying something to them, but changed my mind, feeling that it would be pointless. After taking the lantern off the table, I strolled out through the door without a word. Here we go. Because the way Cocoro came back was Yumogi pulling her, and her bra was unhooked. Outside was a blizzard. The snowflakes descended without end, advancing on me in cold waves. I bent down, held my hands over my head, and directed the glow of the lantern towards the entrance. There was a sign fixed there. Mount Akikura Emergency Shelter Cabin. Those words were clearly written on the sign. However, I couldn't just believe what I read on a single sign. I looked out into the darkness. I couldn't see anything. Was this really Mount Akikura? I felt as if its true shape were concealed, hidden on the other side of the darkness. I boldly threw myself into the snowfield. Yep, there we go. Dimly. Oh, we're up to this point now. I remember that the bit we're up to now was just after when Cocoro took, what do you call it, took the tablets and stuff like that. So we're in the middle of water. We're being drowned right now. But before that, I need to explain something. I have a little theory, again. I think the world that they're in isn't real. And I say that it could be a simulation, or it could be just some kind of godly presence changing things. Because that would explain a lot. It would explain why the mountain turned into an ocean so fast. It would explain why they're able to jump from personality to personality. It would explain how the newspaper got there. And also, we don't have any proof where Sphere is. So Sphere could be in a mountain nearby, for all I know. And that's how Satoru got there. That's how he got there so fast. Because it turns out they're right near each other in the same time, but some people believe it's this year and some people believe it's that year, but there's no definite proof. They could be just from different years, for example. But yeah. Other than that, I don't really know. Maybe the plane crash was made to happen. But at the same time, maybe the plane crash never actually happened. Maybe the world they're in is fake, and so the plane crash is in the fake world. And it only happened so they could make whatever's happening happen. Now, why they wanted it to happen, I don't know. But that's just a theory. I boldly threw myself into the snowfield, a world blurred black, an infinite space devoid of depth. Isolated and alone, drifting away. I was in the center of the world. The vastness of space with me at its origin, extending far away at near light speed. There was no gravity, therefore I couldn't tell one axis from another. Silver particles flowed smoothly through space in a stream. I tried to catch them, but my body didn't move the way I wanted it to. I tried to breathe. A large quantity of some foreign substance flowed into my trachea. I began violently choking. Can't breathe, it's too painful. A strong electric current ran through me. My limbs stiffened and then went into convulsions. I gasped wildly as my body sought oxygen. What? What the hell is this? What the hell's going on? I really don't understand. Either way, I had to escape myself. Immediately. Moving my limbs the best I could, I struggled to move. I turned around and around, searching for an exit. Before my eyes was a silver wall. It rustled as it drew a ridiculous curve. The convulsions of my limbs became more and more violent. My insides were burning hot. My heart raged on. My consciousness grew hazy. I exhaled one last time. The bubbles around me swayed as they slowly rose. A stream of tiny particles hovered there. I followed them with my eyes. Little by little, the globular bubbles disappeared as far to somewhere far away, and were soon absorbed into the silver barrier. They vanished, painting ripples across the silver surface. I reflexively stuck out my arm, towards the wall, towards the exit. From my hand to the wrist, everything vanished, swallowed up by the silver barrier. My hand touched something. My hand caught hold of it firmly. I drew my body towards it once. I sat down on the floor devoid of all strength. I hung my head and leaned back against the wall. And I inhaled deeply over and over again, but my wild breath still wouldn't settle. The concentration of oxygen in my blood was still low. My consciousness was dim. I couldn't gather my thoughts at all. But there was one thing I knew. Somehow I had survived, I guess. And right at that moment, I heard the sound of a door closing. The sound wasn't from the bathroom, it seemed to come from the other side where the door to my room was. Someone into my room, or did they leave it? Wasn't sure. But there was nothing I could do about it. My body was heavy like a lump of lead, making it difficult to even crawl. The only thing I could do was to listen with the utmost care. Couldn't hear anything. It was completely silent. Does that mean the sound I heard was of someone leaving? In my current hazy state of consciousness, even coming to such a simple conclusion took a considerable amount of time. One way or another, at least my breathing had finally returned to normal. My pulse had steadied as well. Only the inside of my head had still felt blurred, as though a mist had enfolded it. I tried taking another look around the room. I was in the bathroom of Sphere. I didn't know whose room it was. My surroundings were engulfed in a pure white steam. I stole a glance into the bathtub to my right. It was filled with hot water. It seemed to be the source of the steam saturated the air. I came back. I came back to my original world. Back from the world of the dreams to the real world. I looked down at my body. It was definitely a male. A body I was familiar with. However, one thing about it felt unusual. My body was soaking wet. Well, I mean, yeah. That's sort of what happens when you go for a dip. Why? Nothing too much to think too deeply about. I nearly drowned just now, in the bathtub to my right. Thinking about what had happened earlier, it seemed like I'd been sinking into the water head first. But I don't know why or how things ended up like this. The memories I had of being in Sphere stopped around the time I dropped the cups in the kitchen. I remember nothing of what happened in Sphere from the time on. Naturally, I had no memory of filling the bathtub with water and diving into it with my clothes still on. Damn, what exactly happened here? DID? Was my body controlled by another personality during that time? But why was I in the bathroom with my clothes still on? Moreover, head first, upside down in the bathtub. Did I fall over? Or... I recalled the sound of the door I just heard. That was the sound of someone going out. It means the person was close by while drowning. If they were outside the bathroom, there's no way they wouldn't have noticed something was amiss with my frantic struggling. Normally one would at least check to see what happened. Leaving the room without a word is too unnatural. Something must have happened. I felt a vague sense of unease. Standing up unsteadily, I left the bathroom. I entered my room. I was the only one in it. My head was still heavy like a stone clod I had been driven into. I must admit, I love this character position. On entering the room, I finally noticed it. This letting feeling isn't just due to oxygen deprivation. A stronger, more instinctual force seemed to be affecting me from within. Anyway, I needed to lie down. My clothes were drenched, but it was a pain to take any of them. Who cares? Anyway, bad. I staggered along the wall. Strong dizziness assailed me. I lost my balance. My legs became twisted, I staggered and then fell. Toppling down like an old tree, I had no energy left to recover. Drowsiness hit me with the instant I landed. Sleepiness of an intensity that I couldn't fight with strength nor will. My consciousness faded. Disappearing. I was falling into a bottomless quagmire. Quagmire.